This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee with your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 an order. Additional terms apply.
Good morning, Mr. Hudson.
Good morning, mate. How are you?
I'm very well, and welcome all to Alan Hudson's American Dream, Stroke Adventure, My Life, My Music, and we will be morphing into Alan Hudson's World Cup diaries like we did with the Euros last year. Also, firstly, I want to say that I just noticed on my Twitter account that something come up. Birmingham is full of rats, and I thought, yes, the Tories have got their conference in Birmingham at the moment, and you and I are both drinking coffee, which we should do, as you just said, have a happy hour where we're both speaking when we've had a certain amount of alcohol and people can hardly understand us, and we would still be clearer than England's hierarchy and Gareth Southgate's selection. So let's start.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea, and it's just a pity that the World Cup is being held where it's held, because there's nothing to be happy about with that decision. I don't think right from the very beginning, and nothing seems to have changed our minds about it. It's getting more and more unattractive, both on and off the field.
Yeah, it is. I mean, should it have gone to Qatar? No. Firstly, when they bid for it, it was a summer tournament, and they said, "Oh well, we can put things in place to pump in cold air into the stadium, so everything will be okay." Absolute BS, complete no. You couldn't have a World Cup in Qatar at that stage of the seasons in the summer. They have moved it to the World Cup. We've jigged and moved things around to accommodate them. They only got the World Cup, let's be honest, because of the corruption of FIFA, and they have no experience. They have no pedigree in football. They're a small state, and they're a very, very backward state as well. So you're right, there's not going to be many happy hours. I do believe on the outskirts for 19 hours a day they'll be serving alcohol, but if you're batting for the other side, let's say, for instance, then I think you might get yourself in one or two predicaments, and don't get waving your rainbow scarf, because they're not a very accommodating nation towards people like that.
Well, it shouldn't. Number one, it shouldn't be allowed. Number two, it's there used to be things that it's just ripped up the history books of the World Cup. Football's supposed to be a summer game. When it comes to the World Cup, it's a fantastic test of especially in the English game at the end of every season, and it's a tradition, isn't it? And it seems that tradition goes out the window now. It's anything goes now. Everything's second to the dollar. And as we know, Platini and his friend Blatter, they raped the World Cup, really, and it's like a mini thing of what Manchester United did years ago when they pulled out the FA Cup, and I think that FA Cup has never been the same since then. Well, I don't think it's ever been the same since they started getting a sponsor for it. But when Manchester United decided to pull out to try and get England the World Cup bid, You know, when the money comes second to when the game comes second to money, it's I think it's really takes a shine off of everything.
Absolutely, it's a downward step. Football always should come first. What we did on the last podcast, we spoke about the women's game that has taken forward steps. It's come on leaps and bounds. They have got a World Cup next year, so we can follow that next year. But I just did briefly want to give a mention to America are playing England. The women's team are coming over. It's a game live. Friday night on our TV set. I think it's going to be a great game. We both enjoyed watching the women's game. They do play a different game to us. It's based on more a bigger skill set. For instance, they like to get the ball down play, and I see girls producing lovely tricks and passing the ball and movement. Okay, it's not as fast flowing, it's not as physical as the men's game, but it's a damn good watch. And I think that game will be a tremendous advertise for women's football. And then, of course, we've got Anthony, your son, who's one of the coaches there at the national team, takes on England in the World Cup on Thanksgiving's Day. So let's firstly just talk about the women and finish off from the last podcast.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know that it's been spoken about a lot. The only problem with what's happened with the women's game, which took the shine off that, was they've got it mixed up with the men's game, and now we've got the women getting too involved with the men's game, which is not on really. It should be kept a completely separate entity. I think the women should know that as well, because if I was in that sex, that's the way I would want it. I wouldn't want it anything to do with the men's game, because their achievements have been so much higher, so much greater, and they should be very proud of that. And we're it's a little bit of the same. I'm a big cricket. I've been watching the cricket this week, and it's the 220, and it's been absolutely incredible. And then I switch it on some days, and we're playing the women's cricket, and it's just not the same. It's two different, entirely different worlds. And when it's you can say the two worlds collide, but they do collide. But it should be totally, the England coach of the Lionesses approach their match was light years ahead of the way that Southgate approached the Euros final. I think we said at the time that had England had the women's coach in the Euros final, we would have tore Italy to shreds. Basically, with a just totally different attitude, and they're very positive, and we're very negative, and it's a sad thing to say.
I think you're absolutely spot on again, Al. It all comes down to your philosophy as a coach and as a manager, and you've educated me into the importance of management and coaches. And if you've got one that's negative, and as Terry Curran always says, he fears fear, you're never going to get anywhere. Wiegman doesn't fear fear. She lines her team up for her purpose and the team's purpose. She never looks at the opposition and thinks, "Oh, we'll fine tune this because we'll negate this problem that they're going to give us." No, no, no. We're going to give you problems, and we're going to field our strongest team, and that's something that no England manager really since Terry Venables has done.
Well, absolutely. It's I don't. We'll still get these forming managers. Even one of my favourite players was Glenn Hoddle. He made his debut against me at Stoke City, and I said to him that day, what a future. Keep going, keep playing like that, and it proved me right. But then he went into management and fell into the same old trap. It was, I I don't know what becomes of them when they become a different animal when they get the England manager's job. And as we discussed on a much earlier show about Venables, he was the only one that really, opened the door and said, lads, you're the best. You are the best players in this country. So go out and show the nation what it's all about. And they, they got a little bit, they got a bit lucky early on, and they had their best performance, which was against Holland, was quite scintillating. But the Dutch were, as usual, having a lot of problems. But overall, Venables, he just did exactly. If he was in charge of that women's side, they would have played exactly the same, because he would have told them to go and express themselves, and that like life, that is what football's all about.
Absolutely, and in one of the lines that John Barnes sings, "Express yourself," it's something that England have never done. The players have never been able to express themselves. There's been from some quarters, I think Fabio Capello, I think he first said it, that it's the impossible job. No, it's not the impossible job. It's the easiest job in English football, because you've got all the best players, as you've alluded to pick from, and it's just a case of selecting them players and then motivating them players. And again, a downfall on England management, and a call up for certain players in this most recent squad. Tomori played the first game in Italy in his backyard, didn't get a look in, come back, sent him home, didn't get any minutes on the pitch. The same with Ivan Toney. James Maddison, one of the most creative players, didn't get time on the pitch. Jack Grealish is on the bench. This fella doesn't know what he's doing. It is what I look at and how I see it. But you must have been involved in squads, Al, that you didn't get a kick, and you were supposed to play and make your debut against Northern Ireland in '72, and Ramsey, for whatever reason, didn't pick you. Bobby had already said that you were starting. How does that make you feel as a player when you're called up and you don't play? And what's the point of being called up if they're not going to play you?
Well, it's at such a young age, you don't really. It's not until you get to go through all the experiences of certain managers and the way they play and certain situations. I didn't really know at that time. Bobby apologized to me afterwards, which I obviously said to him, no need to apologise. He changed his mind. I really don't know. I really don't know. Managers seem to become some kind of gods. I remember when Graham Taylor took the job. He was like, I wouldn't say like he won the lottery. It's even bigger than that. He said, my father, who's no longer with us, we've just cherished this moment, and this is the greatest job in the world, and he made a right pig's ear of it. And it makes you wonder if they think once they've got that job they can do what they want, and all the essential things that you do as a footballer goes out the window. You're dealing, as you just said, to they're dealing with, you get excited. It would be like a kid going into a toy shop. You got the pick of the any shop in England,
Yeah.
and it seems that most of the managers we've had pick the worst toys.
Absolutely. They're shopping in the wrong shop at certain times, Al, and they
Yeah.
don't, even when they pick them, they don't select them. Let's have a look at the recent friendly, well, not so much friendly internationals, because for England it was qualification games, wasn't it? Well, again, not so much qualification games, because when you do win your groups, you go to the finals, and if you win that, you get a free pass to the Euros. But I do like the Nations League because it's pitting your wits against like-minded football clubs, team managers, coaches, etc., and players. So England are in the group, obviously, with Hungary, which we've got absolutely spannered by. Italy and Germany, which is good, and I prefer that because when you have the qualification games, it's no good us playing against Albania and San Marino and Liechtenstein. The boys don't learn anything. What we have learnt is that England in qualification groups do very, very well, and then when it comes to tournaments, we don't do as well. Okay, we have in the last couple, but we've had free passes, if you like. When we do come up against a really good nation, it gets it wrong and we fail. So I think that this has been fantastic.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit a million orders stage. Shopify is there to help you grow. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. Because businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Get a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/work. Shopify.com/work.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
For England, because it's put our feet back on the ground, and in a lot of quarters they've realised that this manager ain't what they thought he was, and we've been calling him out for years.
Well, I think I truly, I don't know where they pulled these competitions out of what hat, and I don't. They must have a hat in the FA where they pull competitions out of, and so let's do this, let's do that, because we there's so much hypocrisy in what we do. You read 1 minute that we're playing too much football, and then the next minute we're introducing new competitions. We're moving this, the most important competition in the English game throughout the years has been the Premier League. I mean, it's been fantastic for everybody. It's and the introduction of playoffs in the lower leagues, I think that's been an incredible success. I think watching them at the end of the season is fantastic. Apart from that, we seem to do things all back to front. And as regards the National League, I really and truly would have played, made that like where they scrapped the England under-23 team when we were in our generation. I would use that as an under-23 tournament for our players. And we know our best team. If the manager does not know the best team in England by now, then there's something very wrong. We do know that Harry Kane's our best centre forward. Why does he have to play in them games? There's always a chance. There's a lot of football. There's always a chance of injury and everything else. There's enough football going around. We've got enough competition in this country. I don't think we should play. Probably the problem is Southgate doesn't know his best team, but he does know the way that he wants to play and the players he wants to use. Everybody has their favourite players, but he should just keep that aside and play these players that are on the fringe and the youngsters we know about. It doesn't matter if we, are we trying to win it? Are we trying to what would happen if we won it? Would there be a big celebration? There probably would be a big celebration if we won it. I mean, when we got to the Euros, there was fireworks, and I thought the Euros final at Wembley, against an aging Italian team, were there for the taking, and still this country wanted to knight the manager for getting beat, and it just goes to show that we basically are a country of losers at that level.
Absolutely. If you're going to applaud and put statues up and knight people, managers for failure, yeah, you are. You're a nation of losers. What I'd like to see is the home internationals back. I'd like to see these Nation League games continue. I'd like to scrap the qualifications for the Euros and for the World Cups and put all the big teams, all the top teams into that tournament and have it as a World Cup where Germany are there, Italy are there, England are there, Holland are there. So all the big nations are there. And then in games that you're not playing in World Cup finals and Euros, England are playing against good opposition. And it's what it says on the tin. It's a football match. You wouldn't put a heavyweight fighter against a featherweight. Why would you do that in football? And that's what happens in qualification groups. I know that they say it brings them up to your standard, but no, it doesn't. There's no evidence that it does, because all they do is they come and defend, put players behind the ball. If they were playing against another team that are equal to them, they wouldn't adopt them philosophies. They'd try and win a game, so it would improve their game as well. So I don't see why big nations should qualify for these tournaments. They should always play competitive games, and I think that way it would be healthy for England. We would be playing less games as well, get rid of all these European Champions Leagues and have all Europeans as cup games like you used to play in the 70s for Chelsea and for Stoke City, and you'd be playing less football, because we are playing less football now in this country domestically than we've ever done. So there isn't a problem, or there shouldn't be a problem, but they like to make the problems because, as you say, Al, they make these different competitions and make it more difficult for players and play too many games.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's the way it is, and
Money.
once again, it all goes down to the money side of these nations that you can't pronounce their names, half of them.
Yeah.
Right, they have every right to start a national football team, but don't throw them in with the big boys straight away.
Yeah.
It's I remember way back years ago when we used to tour with Chelsea, and this is how you find out about. Well, you go all over the world and you watch these nations play, and I knew the countries, the Africans and people like that. They got some incredible talent, and playing in the NASL in America, untapped talent, incredible talent, but it's how you let them countries come in, and I mean, I look at Cameroon when they first played England in the World Cup. It was with Roger Miller. It was like it was fantastic for the Cameroon, but what's happened to Cameroon? Well, where do these countries? They come in for 5 minutes and they leave.
Yeah.
There's no future in that. It's there's no stability in that. You've got to be a top nation. That's why it's called the World Cup. They're never going to win it. All right, they let them go into the early rounds and let them all play each other, and if they're good enough, then they can come through. But as you say, they shouldn't be mingling about, and that is where all the time is taken up.
Yeah, absolutely.
This what's happened this year with the Premier League and the World Cup is just an absolute disaster. I mean, it really years and years ago when we were getting crowds of 70, bigger crowds than what we are now at Stamford Bridge, and they're getting 43,000 now at Stamford Bridge, and in my day there was 70 odd thousand there. It's and the game is all about these suits at the FA. They don't understand that the game is for the people.
Yeah.
it's not for the FA, and it's not for anybody else. The game is for the people, and it's put the whole country in turmoil as to how to get to Qatar to watch a World Cup. I mean, my son's involved. I found out the costings of it, and it's impossible. It looks like it could be impossible for me to go now because of the costings. It's right out of my league.
Yeah.
Well, they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be, especially in a nation with so much money. They've come in it for money. They haven't come in it for any other reason but money. It can't be so to put Qatar on the map in world football, because that ain't going to happen. They're not going to get a George Best, and it's just ruined. It's just ruined the season of football, while it's filled a lot of pockets. And I'm afraid, I speak to Don Shanks a lot. He's in Egypt. And our initial plan was to meet up and go over to see Anthony and mix in the American camp, I must add, and be proud of my son being a national team coach. The only consolation I have through not going will be that he's not a player, because that would have been tragedy.
Yeah.
That would have been a tragedy if I'd not been able to go to watch my son play in a World Cup. And it's just, they've priced everybody out the market. They're looking for the rich. It's all about a buck now, this World Cup. They should change the name of the World Cup this year, because it's for me it'd be one of those World Cups which it'll be an unforgettable one. Unless the football is something on a different planet, but there'll never be another Mexico '70. But I mean, my God, if it all goes badly as the way they organise it, then we're in for some big trouble.
Absolutely, and they do say it's football for all, and clearly it isn't, because it's football for the ones that can afford to go and watch it. When they do these World Cups, it must be in a nation where it's going to be a cheap World Cup for the fans, and they can go and they can enjoy it. MLS compared to the NASL. Back in your day, Al, it was a league of the world's greatest, wasn't it? Anyone and everybody that was a name played in the NASL. In the MLS, it's very, very different, because there's a growth of Americans that are playing, and it's largely American kids that are playing in here, with token foreign players that are playing in their league. So it's almost, as the NASL was heads, this is the tail side to it. How's it different in your view and your opinion? And it's got to be better for the development of the American game. And of course, the next World Cup, it is in America, Canada, and Mexico, isn't it?
Well, that will be sensational.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. And the one following this, I mean, if you was a nation putting on a World Cup, Qatar's the one you want to follow.
Yeah.
And it couldn't get in better hands, because the American soccer now is in such good shape. But it was so different when we were there. It was like we used to call it a working holiday, and at the end of the season, it was great for the English clubs, great for the American clubs, because they get the best players that come and play, and they'd have the out of season over there for 8, 10, 12 weeks, and keep the players fit, and then they come back to their clubs. So the American, I don't think it was to teach the American public, but even when I was there, they didn't know much about the game. I think I remember we've been doing these for a long time. I remember telling you one game in my first match against in Seattle against Tulsa, who in fact had my coach Alan Hinton, who come to Seattle at that time, and I remember someone hitting a shot from about 30 yards, and our goalkeeper tipped it over the bar, and the place was silent. Then all of a sudden they showed it on the big screen, and the cheer came about 10, 15 seconds later. They hadn't realised what was going on in the game. I had to tell them, because they'd never seen a player like me over there. I had to tell them, imagine me as your quarterback. You have to get these things across to them. But now all the people in New York and LA, all the Hispanics, New York's a place for the whole world. All the English, all the British that went to Seattle for Boeing and all that, and down into Canada, they're all now interlinked with the Americans. They're all grown up into the game now. These grandchildren. My kid was 50 the other day. Well, he was 4 when we went to Seattle. So they're the kids. Them kids at school that went to school with him now will be very, very. They'll be very clued up about the game now. They won't be calling it soccer now. They call it football, and it's come a long, long way. The shame of it is that they won't be, they won't have the Pelés and the Cruyffs and the Bests and the Beckenbauers go there anymore. Because it's they got their own league, and they're doing it right. Their crowds are phenomenal.
Yeah. SRBMedia.
As dawn broke over the 7 seas, the pirates of the Crimson Galleon set sail for adventure. But there was one problem: paperwork, mountains of it, filing, invoices, you name it.
This work ain't fit for a pirate.
Luckily, their captain had an idea. She used the smart buying tools on Amazon Business so they could work more efficiently and get back to doing what they do best. I know, right? Amazon Business, your partner for smart business buying.